Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Microsoft Office Add-ins Community Call. My name is David Chestnut, and I'm the host for this call. We've got a pretty full agenda to get through today, so let's take a look at our presenters for today. Joining us is Raymond Liu, who's going to talk about some Excel API updates. And then Juan Balmari is going to share some information around Outlook API updates. And from there, we'll segue to our guest presenter. Joining us today is James Wayne from EXCLAIMER Cloud, and he's going to show their new email signature add-in and a bit of the developer journey along the way to building that. And then finally, I will be doing a demo of a new sample we have for PNP on inserting a template from an external Excel file. We're going to pause after each presentation for maybe just a couple of minutes to take a few questions. I'll apologize in advance. We might not be able to get to all of them just because we probably won't have time to get through our presentations if we spend a lot of time on Q&A. So we'll do the best we can. If there's questions we can't get to, if you're unable to put them in the chat, there's a link at the end of this slide to a Microsoft form that we have where you can submit questions for the next call. And you can just put them in there and then we'll bring them up on the next call. We did that on the last one. I actually have a Q&A slide at the end that we'll cover with questions that folks are asking. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. Let's go to Raymond, who's going to be talking about Excel API updates.
Hello, everyone. My name is Raymond. I'm Program Manager for Excel API. Today, I would like to share some update about the Excel JS API for 1.13. This is the API list that we are going to release in the requirements at 1.13. And the good news is that almost all these code work almost done, and it's on many of them are on the way rolling out. You will be soon to check the release version of this API. And but also some of them we still have some feedback. Today, I would like to confirm with you about one behavior of the API that was the top ask, which is insert from base 64 API. This API we received some feedback from the GitHub, and people are asking for what's the default behavior when insert worksheet worksheet from an external workbook, whether we should activate the newly added worksheets or we should keep the original sheets that don't activate the newly added one. So I would like to learn your feedback. Which do you prefer? If you have some feedback, please let me know which is a better way for you for this API. Okay. Today I would like to spend 1 second. I would like to. I'm not sure whether you can see my chat window. I will type these two behavior to you. One is the insert worksheet that activate the first sheet that newly added, which is a current preview behavior. We received some feedback that they want to, don't activate a newly added window. So if you have some comments, you want to have a first behavior type 1, the second behavior type 2. Okay. And so this one. And next, today I would like to introduce about a newly added event, which is onFormulaChanged events. So these events we built is for the scenario which we called write back. Know that many of our customer engage many of you, and we learned that writing back is the most important scenario that you would like to enable in your adding. So today I would like to introduce one the write back solution, which is using a custom function. So here is an example that you might try it out in your add-in. So the idea is to load the data to the worksheet through the custom function. Here, for example, I have my projection for my sales information for the coming year. So I want to know which is the data is actually coming from the data external database. So the custom function will retrieve the data from external database and put it rendered here in these worksheets, which is I show you here in the picture. And the planner wants to do some change, the budget changing. For example, I would like to change the Model 3 in Q2. I see the sales might be higher than that, so I can type it. I type directly in this particular cell. Then the number that I type will need to write back to the database. So, so adding actually is listening to the events, which is the events I will introduce you, which is the onFormulaChanged events. In these events that adding can do is to get the formula, previous formula, to analyze the previous formulas. We will know that which is the right place in the database, right place, right table to write the newly projection data for Model 3 Q2, that information to the database. And after you write those information to your database, then you can get these return the original formula, which is the formula back to that. And that's and that one will will retrieve the data from the database. Yeah. So here I would like to introduce about the design for these events. So the design is like when you listen to these events, the events are we provide those kind of information. First is the formula details. The formula details includes two information, which is a cell address. So indicate which is the right cell that that you change that, and also we present you what is the formula or previous formula that you overwrite, the end user overwrite, and with that you can do you can restore those information, and also you can you will know what is the right place in the database we are going to write it back, and then the worksheet ID and the source event, so whether this is triggered by local or is triggered by the remote. And last, and also the event type, we'll get what type of the events. So this is pretty much the sample code. Is very easily just show you what is the event arc information. Yeah. So I would like to give you a simple demo of what I have introduced to you. But as I don't have the external database, I just want to let you imagine that I'm using the custom function, but now I'm using actually just a normal formula. So imagine this is a custom function that you are retrieving the data from the database. So if I am an end user, I want to change this formula. I want to say this is too less. I want to do this much of sales for this quarter because I invest a lot of advertisement on that previous on that. So I type that. So and this information will write back directly to the base. So if we don't have these events, then your custom function is actually lost. You lost it, and then you cannot connect to the database. However, if I undo it and if I register the events, then I try to type it to the big number.
Raymond.
I just demo this idea to you. I just mock up this because I don't have the external database connection thing. So I want to give you an idea what is purpose of this API. So if I project, I want to change my Model 3's projection to 20K. And then if I type enter, then this number, actually you receive the events. The events can tell you that what is the previous formula, and then you actually can get the previous formula to restore this to the formula. And those formula can retrieve the data from the database. And meanwhile, you previous to that, you can write this new number to your database accordingly in these events. So that will solve the problem of writing back. Okay. Yeah. So that is what I want to introduce you today. I hope that these events can benefit for you. if you are using a custom function, and these events will help you on that. Okay, I see.
What if multiple cells are changed at the same time, like say a paste operation? Will you get all of the?
That's a great question, Josh. So if if you control a C paste, the multiple formula, and this actually is a array. So that will represent the information that we can enable the multiple ranges. So if you copy paste a big range, it will can support. But we have a limitation. So as you know that the payload size is 5 megabyte. Actually, it's less than 5 megabyte. It can't be too much, too big of the size. But yeah, but we support multiple range, multiple formula change. Thank you. Thank you for a good question.
Okay, and it looks like there's a question from John W.
This is for Excel desktop, correct?
These events is available not only for desktop but also all the platform Excel Online and Mac. It will be released to all these platforms.
You said all? You mean desktop too?
Correct. Desktop and Mac and Excel Web online.
Do you know the release date?
Oh, the release date. Actually, I cannot. Because the code work is really done. The engineer has really checked in the code, and it's on the way to out. Maybe next month. I cannot tell you the exactly date of that event's available, but it will be next month, in the middle of next month. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your question, John.
Okay, then we'll just do one more question. There's admin at Analysis Cloud. So whoever that admin is.
Hi, sorry, I'm using my business account. Sorry about that. So it looks like the track changes functionality that already exists. That was my question.
Yeah, I think yeah. Thanks for your question. Yes, track changes. We have events called onChange events. So that will track the changes you made in a normal range. So if you change from value to a value, then that will be triggered. But this one is more like monitor the changes from the formula. So that will be targeting to the scenario for the custom function write back. So when the formula is being changed, this event will be triggered.
Okay.
Okay, great.
So I think we need to move on. I see there's probably some more hands going up for questions, but in the interest of time, we'll need to move on. And I'll provide a link at the end where you can ask your questions online, and we'll get to them in the next call. So let's go over to Outlook add-ins with Juan.
Okay, David, thank you so much. Hello, everyone. Juan Balmori here. What I'm going to talk about today, it's a quick recap of our Build conference that happened a couple of weeks ago. I want to make sure that all of you, in case you missed our presentation, which is available, by the way, on demand, I want to share with you some important announcements we made. So the first thing that I want to just to bring everybody into context here is that we've been sharing in the last couple of community calls what the team has been working on around event-based add-ins for Outlook. So event-based add-ins, in case everyone hasn't heard about them, it's a technology, it's a new extension point that you have available in Outlook so that you can actually seamlessly integrate your solution into Outlook by just subscribing to events and reacting to them, with your code, as opposed to click on a button in the task pane to run, to show up a task pane or to run a UI-less action. So in this example, in this animation, what you can see here is a difference of scenarios. What happens when you don't have an event-based add-in? Basically, if you want to add a recipient to an email, you have to go click on a UI-less action in this case and add it. These types of scenarios are way simpler to do with event-based add-ins because just by clicking new message, you can basically insert your code logic over there and insert them automatically like this, right? So This is about the event that we started. This release was with onCompose. So that is event-based add-ins. So during build, we did a couple of important, very important announcements on this area. So first of all, we announced that this technology is generally available right now. So event-based add-ins, if you install the latest build on the subscription, on the monthly subscription channel, you will be able to use this in production. No? So this went live, event-based add-in went live, and also the Mailbox 1.10 API, which is the requirement set that allows you to insert signatures. Both of those are GA. You can learn more about them in this link provided here. There are a couple of things that I want to share that are important. So what we are allowing right now is that event-based add-ins are only available for admin installations. So basically, the admin through centralized deployment or unified deployment needs to deploy this add-in within the organization. So user directly going to the store is not allowed right now. So that's number one. Number two is that it's available on Outlook for Win32 and also for Outlook on the web. We are working on Mac to also support this. So currently the team is in coding phase for this technology. The deployment, you can do either deployment sideloading by sideloading using unified deployments. What this means is that if your add-in is not in the store, you can deploy them just by using obviously the manifest as you do regularly. Okay, so we're going to share in a few days some guidelines so that we are going to require as part of our validation to the store. So that is coming very soon. It should be out in the next few days. And then a bit later, we're going to also be working on a feature that will enable you to upgrade your current add-ins to use this technology. So, for example, if you currently have an Outlook add-in in the store that is not using event-based add-ins, these extension points, you are going to be able to update those add-ins in the coming days. This will require, by the way, a consent from administrators. So that was the first announcement. So we released event-driven add-ins and the onCompose events for emails and appointments. The second big announcement we made at Build was that we have new events in preview. So on top of the onCompose events, we are also going to be right now. If you install this build, which is basically if you subscribe to the beta channel, you at the minimum this build number on Win32, and also on OWA, by the way. Now it's also available in Outlook for the web. You're going to be able to play with more events. So among others, you will have the recipients change event. You will have the attachments change event as well. So every time someone adds an attachment, you're going to be able to get some logic there. And the same is true for appointments. So every time you change the time or date of an appointment, or if you change the recurrence of an appointment, there's going to be events for you to do some logic there. And then we also have the info bar. So as part of the event-based add-ins, one way that you can actually interact with the user is through the info bar, which is the tiny notification bar on the top of Outlook. And from there, you're going to be able to trigger additional actions like showing a task pane, or basically you can dismiss the info bar. We are also providing an event that you can actually handle when someone closes that info bar. As part of Build, actually, I showed a demo of the types of scenarios that you can accomplish with this. I just want to show you very briefly a quick demo here. So right now, I am composing a new email, and I will show you how the add recipients event works. And also, for example, in this case, I'm going to be changing the signature of the email depending on the user. If it's part of my organization, I will provide an internal signature. But the minute that I add someone that is external, for example, we have here someone that is in Hotmail, for instance. If I select that email account, you can see that I am changing, the signature to show kind of more corporate image here, and also in this case a link to learn more about event-based add-ins. So this is the type of scenarios that you're going to be able to enable with these new events. You will be able to do the same for attachments and for date change and all that I shared previously. And with that, well, I also show some super simple to use this. If you go to, if you want to include this functionality in your add-ins, you need to do just 3 different things here. The first one is that you need to add runtimes element in your manifest. So here I am using a solution that I created using GeoOffice, our scaffolding tool. I just opened the manifest. I added the runtimes element here. I need to indicate, the runtime URL for Outlook for the web and the JS runtime for URL. Remember that in Windows, we use a JavaScript engine only. We don't load the full browser there. So that's why we're required to runtimes URLs. And then basically, once you add the runtimes, you can actually add the launch event extension point, as you can see here. And then basically, you need to specify the events that your admin is going to subscribe. Remember that on Compose and on Appointment Organizer are the two events that we GA'd already. So you need to specify the event you're subscribing and the event handler, right? Of course, that event handler, these are the other events, as you can see here. That event handler needs to be in the basically JavaScript files that were specified on the runtime. So runtime is going to load those JavaScript libraries. In this case, the file is commands.js, and as you can see here, all those event handlers that I defined in the manifest are going to be called. So in this case, this is some very basic code to find out if someone is an external recipient or not, and if they are, they add either an external or an internal signature. So I'm going to leave it like that. I just wanted to share with you the news that we shared, the GA announcement we made. And today we actually invited James Wayne from EXCLAIMER, who actually created an add-in for signatures that is using all this technology. And I will let him share a more interesting demo about all this. So James, if you're ready, please feel free to start presenting. Go ahead, James.
Thank you very much. No, thank you, Juan. Let me first start by saying what a pleasure it is to be invited to speak to you all today. We're very grateful for the opportunity. These are exciting times, and my job today is to talk to you all about our new email signature add-in for our product EXCLAIMER Cloud. Before we get into that, let me first introduce myself and the colleague that I'm joined by. My name is James, and I am the head of product specialists here at EXCLAIMER, but I'm also joined by my colleague Phil Vetter, who is the head of our development team. A little bit of information about EXCLAIMER if you are unaware of who we are. We are a SaaS solution provider primarily. We sell email signature management solutions. We have organizations around the world, as I'll get to in just a moment, that make use of our software to help manage their email signatures, make it far easier to do so. But the thing that I am here to talk to you about today is our new email signature add-in we announced on the same day that you announced the general availability of event-based activation. So we were right in tandem there. We've been very fortunate to work quite closely here to make this a reality. So what I'd like to talk about today is just a little bit about who we are, to give you some context, the customer pain points that we identified, and we've done that very early on, really. We had a previous way of handling email signatures within the various Outlook clients, but there were some pain points regarding that, and I was talking about what those were, how we overcame those obstacles with the add-in, what that has allowed us to do. Phil will speak a little bit about the development journey, and then I do intend to show you a live demonstration of what that add-in looks like in practice. So as I said, let's start by looking at us just for a little bit more time. We are EXCLAIMER, the category leader for email signature management solutions. We have been around for now about 20 years in the market. So we do consider ourselves to be experts in the email signature space. It's what we live and breathe every day. And we now provide a solution, an email signature solution, to over 40,000 customers, many of whom are enterprise size in the sort of tens of thousands of users. We have offices around the world. Our principal one is in the UK. That's in our Farnborough main office, but we also have offices in Miami and as well in the Netherlands, and we are growing, so that is good news. Our principal product is a product called EXCLAIMER Cloud that can actually be used to manage signatures both for Microsoft 365, but as well local Exchange too. And what the solution really tries to deliver, the value of it for our customers, really regard these 3 points primarily. Delivering a state of consistency where the email signature is concerned, really guaranteeing that the email signatures that the organization wants users to use are used, and actually accomplish this across all of the email clients and devices that they use. Make it far easier, more straightforward, quick, and easy to actually design those signatures and manage them day to day, make changes on the fly, really use the email signature as a communications channel. Certainly part of our responsibility is making it so easy to update email signatures that anyone can be capable of doing so. And then finally, if there are pieces of compliance that need to be considered, making sure that those are always in place too. So if we turn our attention to some of those pain points we've been able to address with this add-in. We had previous ways of delivering email signatures to the Outlook client, but there were definitely some pain points associated with that previous method. For a start, it involved a locally installed agent, which of course is more difficult to deploy. It was deployed traditionally using GPO or Intune, and that posed challenges, especially to remote users. It just generated for our customers more overhead where the IT department was concerned, and making sure that that agent that was required to deliver signatures was in place. And we wanted an easier way that we could offer. And then as well, there was the experience of the end user to consider. We couldn't provide a visual preview right when the selection of the signature took place. We couldn't offer multiple signatures in Outlook for the web, and that meant very much a different experience in desktop Outlook, the local Outlook client, and the web Outlook client. And as well, because of the way that behaved, signatures were only updated every 60 minutes. There was a long period of time in between each update. Thankfully, the add-in has allowed us to overcome several of these challenges. Certainly, now we have ease of deployment because that can all be managed from the admin portal. As well, the add-in, of course, will be automatically upgraded without any action. There's no upgrades to concern themselves with our customers. We can ensure a reliable signature insertion now. In fact, we can as well override existing user-defined signatures, support all platforms, and something really important to EXCLAIMER is really that we do things properly where authentication and security is concerned. And now we've got this fantastic way of ensuring we can offer these extra features, functionality, whilst not compromising in that regard, which is just great. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass over now to Philip Vetter, who is our head of development, and he's going to talk to you about the journey we took to reach this add-in.
Thank you, James. So I'll start with, I'd like to talk about really where we've come from. So we've been producing client-side add-ins that have been able to update Outlook signatures for over 10 years now. And that agent, it works well, but it requires us to go into the file system, to match the formats used by Outlook, to manipulate the registry, and really to force Outlook to do something it didn't really want to do. From the install front, it required the agent to run on the machine, so that's installed via GPO, or a user interaction for that first install via click once. We've looked at add-ins a number of times over the years, and up until this point, we couldn't really achieve that seamless hands-off signature insertion we wanted. Because what we're really after is the user doesn't have to do anything to get a signature. They're just there. They appear, they work. Really, they can just install it, use it, and forget about it, and everything they want just happens. So if we move on to why this is now different, so in the form of the signature APIs in the event-based add-ins, Microsoft have given us the ability to reliably insert signatures. They're giving us the ability to have an add-in that works across all platforms. So, as James alluded to a minute ago, we have solutions for Outlook for Mac, we have solutions for Outlook for Windows Desktop, and we have the solutions for Outlook Web. But they are different solutions for each platform. This enables us to create a single user experience, a single solution that works across all platforms and will be there available when Microsoft make it available on that platform. One of the other challenges we have with the add-ins previously is guaranteeing that signature will be inserted. So with the new onCompose event, we can automatically insert that signature into the email, so the user's not having to make a conscious choice about inserting the signature. And we can also override the user's existing signature. So particularly on Outlook Web, if the user's been in and created their own signature, this then allows us to enforce corporate signatures across all platforms. And really continuing the theme of making sure that the user has to interact with this as little as possible and it just works for them. The ability to use the SSO that's built into Outlook, that's built into Outlook Web, to just sign them automatically into the add-ins, to see their signatures automatically and automatically insert them, removes another pain point. And finally, and really this is the one that helped to convince us that this was the right way to go. Microsoft have given us a clear development path with the onRecipientChanged events and other events they're bringing into this add-in model that allows us to expand the functionality in parallel with Microsoft as they make these available to us. And really, finally, the preview program that Microsoft have run allowed us to work with the preview APIs to be able to produce this add-in so that when Microsoft were ready to go to market with it, we were there side by side and could release simultaneously. So with that, I'm going to hand back to James and he'll give you a nice demonstration.
Thank you very much, Phil. So yes, it has become that time. We're going to look at how this all works. And to begin with, I'm just going to show you these 3 email signatures and talk about the use case I'm going to suggest here. It's one we commonly encounter. Here I have a default email signature for new emails. It's doing quite a lot. I'm really trying to make use of it as a communications channel with all manner of content within it. I've got a default signature for forwards and replies that omits a lot of that content as I begin to go back and forth. And as well, we have that signature for internal emails too, that we're, for the time being, going to need to be able to select. So first, let's look at how that new email signature comes into play. We're here in the Outlook client. I'm going to click on new message here. The onCompose event is going to trigger, and that's going to result in my new email signature being added to the email. Nice and easy. If then we turn our attention to replies, same thing here. We're going to look at a reply message, and I'm going to create my reply, wait for that onCompose event to trigger, and now my reply signature will take effect. And finally, if we look at that choice of signature, which many of our customers do value, being able to manually select a different signature if they have need to, the add-in improves this experience as well. I can simply go to the add-in below the email as I compose. When I click this, it opens up the sidebar and in real time loads those signatures. You can see all of the signatures available to me here on the right, including that new email signature and the forwards and reply. We can actually tell that these are our defaults by icons just above to the top right. Here's the icon for my new messages. It shows that's the default. And here we have an icon that shows here, this is the default for replies. What I'm going to do is just click on this internal signature as not a default, and just by clicking on it, that gets inserted instead. And that is the add-in, and we are very grateful for it. So I suppose then this is a good time to invite any questions if there are any.
Yeah, we've got a few minutes for some questions, so just raise your hand if you have any questions for James or Philip or for anything that Juan was presenting around the event-based add-ins.
Yeah, James, Prashant here. So I have one question. So how can we manage this signature centrally?
That's a great question. So what I haven't previewed today is the portal experience that customers also have access to, where all the signature designs are created using our proprietary signature designer tool. It's very intuitive. It makes creating signatures very, very easy. Again, we want non-IT professionals perhaps to be able to be successful at creating those signature designs themselves. And from there, signatures are established, set up so that they appear in this add-in and are applied by the add-in.
It's worth noting there that you set up one signature centrally, and then it merges your user details into that signature. So you're not managing signatures for everyone. You're managing a single signature, and then that it is automatically populated with your user details.
Andy.
Yeah, hi. I've got a question on the runtimes element. When I tried to add the runtimes element into my manifest, and this is for an Excel add-in, I get an error that says that the element runtimes doesn't exist, is invalid in the namespace. Task panes version overrides.
Yeah, so that question, I'm guessing you submitted that question on the form?
I did, yes.
Okay, yeah, I have a Q&A slide coming up.
Okay, I'll wait till then.
Yeah, and I have an answer for you, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Any other questions for Philip or James or Juan? Okay, so thank you, James and Philip. Really appreciate you joining the call and sharing your experience and this add-in that you've built, which is really useful for folks taking advantage of the set signature in Outlook. So I'm going to move along. We'll go on to a PNP sample that actually demonstrates the insert worksheet from Base 64 that Raymond was talking about earlier. All right, so hello, my name is David Chestnut, and I'm a senior dev writer on the Office platform team, and I'm going to show a PNP sample that we've released that shows how to insert an external file into an existing worksheet and then populate it with JSON data. So I'm going to go over to Excel, and let me just show what this does to start with. I'm going to go to my Insert menu and select my add-ins. And what I've done is I've already downloaded from the PNP site the manifest for this PNP Insert Excel file. So you'll see the icon there for it. So I'll go ahead and add that to my spreadsheet and go to the Home tab, and we'll see it here. So I'm going to go ahead and open the task pane. And there's a little bit of help text here for trying it out. Basically, all you need to do is go choose the file that you want to insert. So I'll click on that, and it opens up File Explorer here. And I'm going to go grab the sales template, which is also in the PNP repo, and open that. And then you'll see that it inserts a table. It creates this template worksheet. You can see at the bottom it inserted this. And then I have a table, and then that table was populated with some JSON data. So this is pretty simple. It's just a scenario where if you have a situation where you want to bring in some data or some kind of template from another Excel worksheet and put it into the current one with your add-in, this is how you can do it. So let's take a look at the code. Switch over to Visual Studio Code. And this is the project here. It's basically just an index HTML file. That's the task pane page, and then the index.js. So in the HTML, you can see we create this input element, which is where the user's going to go select a file. And then in our index.js file, in our Office on Ready, we basically hook up that element to a change. We add a change event for it, and it's going to call our insert sheets function. And down here in insert sheets, we're going to get the file name and put that into this my file variable. Then we're going to create a file reader, and we're going to have the file reader open up that file, that spreadsheet that the user selected, and we're going to have an onload event so that when the reader reads it in, it's going to call this function in which we're going to call excel.run, because we're going to interact with Excel APIs. We will go into the contents of that file and search for the literal string base64, because that's where the base64 encoding will be located. Once we've located that, we pull it out into this workbook contents variable. We then go get the current workbook, which is in the Office context object. So we go context.workbook and grab that. And the magic's going to happen here. This is the API. So we're going to call workbook.insert worksheets from base64. And we pass it the base64 content along with these options. Now, in this case, the options, you can see up here, we've set them to, you can specify which sheets do we want to insert. In this case, we're selecting the template sheet that's in there. We can indicate where we want to put it. So we say relative to sheet 1, we want to put it after that one. So that's what position type is doing. It's placing it after. So once this is called, we then wait for the context.sync. So that's going to wait until it actually gets inserted. Then we need to insert the JSON data. So we go get the new template worksheet that we just inserted from the current context, current workbook. We go fetch the data.json. This is just a JSON file that's out on GitHub. So we fetch it from there. You could get the JSON from, if you had a service or something, however you want to set that up, doesn't really matter. Once we have the JSON, we then map it into the structure that we want to use for a table, which is product and 4 quarters. We then go and basically set up a range in that table where we're going to insert all that data. We get that range and we assign the JSON data to the values of that range. And then we activate the sheet so it's visible, and we return context.sync. So that's how the JSON data gets inserted. Now, something could go wrong, so you want to make sure you have error handling. A case where this can happen is if you're inserting a worksheet in Excel on the web, and Excel on the web doesn't support every feature that's in a spreadsheet. So for example, if you had a chart, that worksheet will fail and you'll see this error. And the error will indicate that there's an unsupported type in there that can't be inserted. So in that case, here you'd want to add some additional code to basically notify the user, hey, there's something in that worksheet that's not going to work. So you could go do it in desktop and it should work, but you wouldn't be able to do it online. So just don't forget about that little piece. And that's pretty much how it works. One more thing to point out is that this sample is also in ScriptLab, if you want to try it there. I've already opened it up here, but like if you just go in the samples and you search for, whoops, not my snippets, I want samples. And you search for, say, insert, you can see this insert external worksheets. So if you want to try it out right away, you can go here. It's slightly different in that it just passes an empty array when you give it the options of sheet names to insert, which basically just inserts all of them. So definitely go take a look at the sample and try it out. You'll notice there's no YoOffice project here. It's just hosted on GitHub. So it's really simple to set up and use. You just have to sideload the manifest. So let me switch back, see if there's any questions.
Yeah, hi David. I actually raised my hand. I just want to learn the feedback from our community. So as David just demos, when call this API, insert worksheets, the worksheet will be activated. So this is our current behavior. So we receive some of the feedback say they don't want to activate the sheets that newly added. So what's your opinion whether that is we should activate as current behavior or we should not activate it?
Does anyone have any feedback on that? Andy has a hand up there.
I would prefer not to activate the sheet. We do use hidden sheets, and we would rather not activate the sheet once we create it and have that be optional. That's my personal opinion.
Got it. Great. Thank you. Yeah, it makes sense. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Andy.
I agree with the previous speaker.
Okay. All right. Another vote for not activating.
Got it. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. For not activating.
Got it.
Sounds like not activating is winning.
Okay. I see. Yeah. Because because we internally have a very hot debate. So this API actually preview for 2 years is activated, but we receive some feedback say do not activate it, and I want to verify whether we should not activate it. So it seems like today we got answer.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Are there any
for your
hands
feedback.
that think we should activate? I'll just ask it that way. And so if I see a hand up, I'll assume maybe you think it should be activated after this API call. Vit?
I'm just curious, if I remember correctly, there is a select sheet, right, where you can activate a sheet?
Yeah.
Correct.
Yes. Yeah, so that's why I'd go with non-activated, right? And then.
Exactly, that was my point, that I can activate it using different API. So for not activating, definitely.
Got it. Thank you very much. That makes sense. Cool.
So let's move on.
This is really good.
Thanks for the feedback. I just need to get through more slides here. So just want to say on our community spotlight, thank you to Damien Bird and Martin Van Stam. Damien was our guest presenter on the last call who did a demo of Office scripts with Power Automate. If you haven't seen it, go check it out from the video from the last call. And Martin has continued to help us with the PNP repo with updates and reviews and things. So we really appreciate that. Okay, so here's the Q&A. These are questions that came in on our questions form, and I'll provide a link to that in a couple of slides. I want to take a moment to take a look at these and provide some help and answers where we can. First question that came to us was asking, can you fix Teams add-ins functionality for online meetings? Association between Outlook events and online meetings is non-existent. The Teams SDK currently works online with single instance meetings, but there's no way to associate custom data with event instance and event series. For example, the SDK does not let you go get meeting instance start time. So I think it's a great question for the Teams folks. This is the Office add-ins call, so we're not that familiar with the Teams SDK. So I would recommend reaching out to folks there. And I put a link in here for the Teams app development Q&A. We can go ask questions, and I would try starting there. So the next question is, are there plans to provide access to the Outlook autocomplete list via Office.js? The list is available in the UI on mobile, OWA, and desktop clients while entering recipients. So that's a great question. I would say it's a great feature suggestion, so please let us know more about that. I guess the short answer is no, there aren't any plans right now. But you can go to this link here to our ideas page and suggest that feature and give us some context about any scenarios around how you might use that or want to see it implemented, and that'll help us with our planning. So the next question for SSO, the Yeoman generator uses the NPM package MSAL, which is the Microsoft Authentication Library. But there's also an NPM package called Azure MSAL Browser, another one called Azure MSAL React. And can these all be used inside an Office add-in? Which ones are the recommended ones to use? So because they're Office add-ins, you can, in general, use most libraries. The only times you might run into issues is if there's something in the context of how Office add-ins are hosted that might cause a conflict. Like, for example, you're writing it in an iframe when you're in Office on the web, and with a library, like say it's trying to use cookies, you might run into issues. So really, that's the only thing you sort of have to watch out for with using libraries. In the context of SSO, you don't need any of these things to get the SSO token. You just call the Get Access Token API, and Office will take care of all the protocol stuff on the back end and send you a token. Now, if you're going to do anything beyond that, like say you want to take that token and exchange it for a Microsoft Graph token or a token that has access to Microsoft Graph, well, then you're going to have to go through some additional steps. And of course, we also recommend you have a fallback dialog in case SSO fails to work. There could be some scenarios where SSO doesn't work. Maybe there's something not consenting properly, and you have to fall back to your own dialog and log in the user. And in that case, something like MSAL is going to make it a lot easier. You could implement all of this yourself, but MSAL would be much easier. And in that case, the question is, which one do we recommend? But it's really difficult to recommend anything because these libraries can be very specific to certain scenarios, and depending on what you're trying to do, one might make more sense. So I would just say go look at the Azure documentation for these libraries, as well as the samples that they have, and follow the resources there to see which one's going to work best. But in terms of Office add-ins, there's nothing really that's going to say, oh, hey, this would be even better than that one. It just really more depends on your authentication scenarios. Okay, so more questions. Is there any progress on adding the ability to send an email in the compose window from an Outlook add-in using Office.js? Using EWS REST Graph APIs to send a draft creates an issue on the Windows Outlook in cache mode, where the up-to-date draft takes time, potentially means to sync with server. This feature has been requested as far back as 2017 on the old user voice. So I'm reaching out to the team on that one. This question came in a little bit late, so I will post an update in our blog afterwards and have more information on that. And the next question is, I'm implementing the shared JavaScript runtime, but I'm getting an error when I'm adding the runtime section. And the error is that the element host's namespace has an invalid child element at runtimes. So I think what might be happening, I actually reproduced this error, and I think what might be happening is it's just the ordering. You have to put the runtime section just underneath the host. Let me see if I can share. I want to share this. Okay, so we have this article on configuring your Office to use a shared JavaScript runtime. And there's a section down here that says, hey, go put this runtime section into your XML, your manifest XML. And there's a little ... above it, which sort of implies you can put it in any order, but that's not really the case. You actually need to put it at the top. So right after you have your host, you then need to put the runtimes, and then it should work. I'm assuming that's what you're running into. Now, it's possible maybe it's something else, in which case we just need to see the manifest to help out. There's a link at the end of the slides to our Microsoft Q&A page. So if you're still stuck on it, then just please, if you can, post your manifest so we can take a look at it with a Q&A and we can try to debug what's going on with it. In general, you can also look at some of the shared runtime samples on the PNP site and look at their manifest to see if there's any differences that might explain what's happening. There was one more question. So what's the difference between the following two functions? There's an office.context.auth.getAccess token, and there's an office runtime.auth.getAccess token. So fundamentally, these are both the same. And I realize it's confusing because we have these both in our reference. If you look at the reference docs, you'll see both these documented. They really do the same thing. In fact, if you call office runtime.auth.getAccess token, it's really just forwarding that to the office.context.auth.getAccess token. Now, the samples, if you go look at them, are using office runtime. And that's one I'd recommend using for now. It does seem like there are some issues with trying to use the office.context auth where it may not work. And so that's something I'm trying to follow up with the team on. And unfortunately, I don't have an answer today around that. So I would just say, like, if you want to know for sure it's going to work, like, use the office runtime version of that, which is, you'll see that also in our SSO samples. Now, there's an additional part to this question, which talks about in the context of shared runtime, UI-less custom functions and Outlook compatibility. So for UI-less custom functions, that's an interesting question because what that is the add-in only has custom functions. There's no task pane. There's no browser web control. It's just running JavaScript, and it therefore does not have access to most of the Office API functionality. And so I'm trying to confirm with the team if you can actually use this getAccess token call in that context. I just don't have an answer today yet on that, but once we post the blog after the call, I hope to have more information in there about how that works. But in terms of shared runtime, getAccess token should work fine. And in terms of Outlook compatibility, it works fine there. We have a Outlook SSO sample on the PNP site that you can go look at if you want to try running a sample yourself. So please go check that out. And I hope that helps. Just kind of wrapping things up here. So if you're new to Office add-ins, please go check out the documentation. There's an AKA-MS link there to Office add-ins docs. There's also an AKA link to the Office scripts docs documentation where there's quick starts to help you get going quickly. Here's a list of developer resources. So I mentioned if you have technical questions, you can go to this Office.js dev questions, AKA link here. You can also go to Stack Overflow, and then here's some of the tags for Stack Overflow. And then if you have feature requests, that's kind of the bottom. There's a link there for submitting new ideas. The first link, Microsoft 365 Developer Program, I highly recommend if you don't have that. It gives you a free tenant for testing and building add-ins. It's very useful. I use it all the time. Then I also want to mention, you might see this on some of the other calls where there's a bit of a hiatus coming up with the community calls this summer. Now, this doesn't apply to Office add-ins. We're going to continue having our monthly calls for Office add-ins. So there is a call in July. And there is a format change coming to Microsoft 365 calls later this year, where there'll be Tuesday calls and Thursday calls instead of today's format, where there's calls, they're just sort of interspersed throughout the month for each different part of the platform. I imagine there's going to be more information coming out on that soon. I don't have all the details today, but the main thing is I just want to say, if you see this, like, just so you know, Office Add-ins is, we are having a July call and an August call. Here's the link if you want to find invites to these various calls. Oh, I wanted to give you the link to here it is, the Office Add-ins form. So I mentioned, like, because we didn't have the chat today, if you had questions that we didn't get to, go to this Office Add-ins form link, this aka.ms at the bottom here, and you can submit questions in there for the next call. And I'll put a Q&A slide in, and we'll go through them and answer them. Now, this will be recorded and posted on our YouTube channel at M365Dev YouTube. You can follow us at Twitter at Microsoft365Dev. And again, the next call is July 14th at 8 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. There's a link there to the invite if you don't already have it. And that's the end of our call. Thank you, everyone, for joining the call. Hope you found it useful, and we will see you on the next call. Thanks.